This week on Screen Talk, I'm joined by Bradford-born actor Enzo Cilenti, whose acting credits include Game of Thrones, Guardians of the Galaxy, and the BBC One hit drama Luther, just to name a few. We discuss how Enzo got into acting and what it's like to be in some of the world's best-known film and TV productions. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please give a very warm Bradford welcome to Enzo Cilenti.
Thank you, David.
Good to see you. Well, first of all, thank you for joining us in coming home.
That's right.
To Bradford lad. So I'm just going to start with a few questions that are sort of to kick us off, and then there's plenty of time for you to ask. So, school play to Game of Thrones. I mean, how does that work? Did you go straight into acting, or have you had a series of jobs? Where did it all start for you?
I've got a vague memory of doing a play at home when we lived on Ellercroft Avenue in Lidget Green. I think I would have been about 6. I was wearing a cowboy's outfit, but no top on.
Like we've got really a picture of it.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, and just prancing and kind of inviting sort of neighbours to watch it or something. I think that's my earliest memory of doing it. And then the next one was at school, and I have no idea why I was attracted to joining the drama society. Like when I was really young, like my first year when I was like 9, and first I think it's the interview I did in the TNA. The first role I played was as Cora Crumpet. It was a single-sex school in those days, and something doing that obviously, had resonated in me. Like, oh, that's great. Obviously, at that point, not sure whether it was dressing up as women or acting. And then I just kept doing it through school. It seemed like, I don't know, I can't remember. It was just, I think it was quite anarchic because it was a sort of a big sports rugger school and
Bradford Grammar, yeah.
Bradford Grammar, and the sort of jock element was lauded, and as was the academic side, and I was neither of them really. So you find your spot, you find your niche, and we were fortunate that there were a couple of masters at the time who were very supportive of that, and a few people in my year and immediate years above and below as well, all kind of felt the same way. So there's a lot of momentum there. So it felt it was like super supported from the staff aspect and amongst my kind of, well, not colleagues, my mates basically.
Great school. I mean,
I did it with
you
my
talk
mates.
About David Hockney in the
TNA so
piece.
That's right. I mean, that was an amazing thing. I only subsequently found that out quite recently through Vince Franklin, he was at the vanguard of the acting fraternity at BGS when I was there. And someone, I think he was like 3 or 4 years older than me, and someone I really looked up to, and he single-handedly put on Arturo Ui in the Price Hall. Yeah. And it was he who told me that it was Hockney who donated a painting to the school so that we might have a theatre.
Wow.
They'd asked him for money for the sports hall.
Yeah.
It was like, why would I do that?
Good for him.
I think.
Does he know? Does he?
Yeah.
Know
do you know what?
You met him?
I didn't meet him. I was waiting to go in on an audition not too long ago, and he was dining al fresco, just round the corner. I was waiting. I was like really early, and it's opposite a theatre, and it all seemed like too kind of perfect to go over. And, David, I'm about to go in for an audition. I owe it all to you. It's actually it's a big regret of mine, not just to say.
To shake his hand even.
Well, to say thank him.
Yeah.
That was, because the theatre was built, and that was a real moment.
Yeah.
That was probably the defining moment at school.
Right.
Of like, we can tell stories, we can get things done, and it's a real thing. Yeah. When I started at that school, we were doing it in the Price Hall. Right. Which is a lovely thing, but now we've got a proper theatre, and it just sort of felt like a powerful moment. And one of my best mates, who I used to act with at school, his son and daughter now at BGS.
Right. Following on in the tradition.
And they were like, "Oh, I saw a picture of you on the wall, Dad, in this play called The Long, Short and the Tall." And I went, "Yeah, that was the first play in this theatre."
So did you build a career from that point? Did you purposely do O-levels, GCSEs?
No,
what they might
GCSE.
be?
I'm
Go
not
on
quite
to
that old. I think it
go
was,
on to.
I mean, only by not by much.
Did you go on to study at university though? Did you go on
I
to
did.
do acting at university?
I remember the end of my acting career, or end of acting career, part one, was there were auditioning for a remake of Wuthering Heights, and they went around local schools.
Right.
And from my school, I got chosen to go to a second round of auditions, and then maybe a third round. And I got really close. I didn't get the job.
Right.
And that was my first brush with sort of the disappointment that's inherent in the industry. And I was like, forget it. It was so crushing.
Yeah.
It was so crushing. And then, so I just sort of semi-focused on my A-levels. I got into where I wanted to go and did a degree in French and Spanish and thought nothing more of it. Didn't join the theatre club at university.
Ah, okay.
No, joined the cocktail society
Right.
instead.
It's probably the
one
same
in a
thing.
long line,
The same
one in
thing,
a
isn't
long catalogue of really fine choices in my life.
So when did you start professionally doing the gigs?
So I had a year. I studied modern languages. I had a year when abroad to kind of think about what was going to happen. It was like obviously I was learning the languages. I was in Cannes and Nice, and then Mexico City, working as a bodyguard. Go figure. Well, that's because I was the tallest person in Mexico City by about 6 inches at least. But I just had a lot of time to think about what I really wanted to do, when I got back, and practically the first thing I did when I went back to university is join the theatre club. A lot of my friends had graduated; they were on 3-year courses, and I immediately felt at home. The theatre was really, really, really similar to this. Just sort of give me the slight heebie-jeebies, but in a good way.
Yeah, I noticed that when you came in. You were like, oh
and
my God, it's just like being back at uni.
I just made a pact with myself. I said, right, the first production that they did at university, I'm going to audition, and if I get the role I really want to play, I'm going to look at this seriously.
Right.
And the first, so I remember the first play that they were putting on was Grease the musical.
And what part did you play?
I got to play Kaniki.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
can see
which
it,
is like, for me, it's like the coolest one in it.
yeah. Can you sing?
Of a fashion.
Okay. I mean, I've got your IMDb pages here, but you know, like I said, we'd be here all night if we if we went. I've also got your picture as well, just in case I didn't remember what you looked like.
I look like I was still at school in that picture.
Yes, it's very good.
So I did that, and then in the theatre club, I met there's a bunch of people who were going to drama school. They weren't going to go and do an advertising job, which was what was very of the moment in the sort of mid-90s. That's what you did if you were to do something semi-creative, supposedly. And then I auditioned for drama schools. Got the fright of my life. I had no idea what it was going to be like. No idea what. Felt really outside that.
I was going to ask that. Coming from Bradford, I mean, was it? Did you have to kind of mask that in any way? Has it been a hindrance, or is it an advantage?
That's something that I really thought it would be an advantage, and I think because of what was happening, I think especially in terms of film at that point, and kind of production values changing, and a lot more handheld stuff, and just grittier things, and also TV as well.
Northern.
It was sort of fashionable to be northern. And I got to these institutions, you know, the Lambdas, your RADAs, you know, the kind of big, famous, long-established drama schools where everyone you've ever heard of has come through. And I didn't expect to be embraced fully with open arms before I'd even got in.
Right.
But it was really stuffy. It felt really stuffy, and it took me. I think it took me a while to sort of realise just how sort of the kind of world I was getting into, and that I had to adapt to it.
So did you have to change the way you were? Did you change your accent to be able?
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I did ultimately, yeah. But
I don't think anyone would judge you on that, and I'm not judging you.
No, I'm very
I imagine
no,
it is a pre-requirement of being at RADA.
No, I'm uncomfortable with it. I mean, I didn't get into RADA. I did an awful audition, but that was part of the process of kind of understanding what it would take to get into a drama school, which was a segue into getting into the industry. I did, obviously a bit of research and had to do it very quickly. I had a year to kind of get some sort of degree and prepare myself to get to a level to get into a postgrad drama school spot. And I probably only did about 5 auditions, 6 auditions. And I got into the final drama school I auditioned for.
Wow.
If I got a job for every 6 auditions I did now, I'd be doing really, really well.
It's really not easy environment, is it? And so I am massively impressed that you have had such a fantastic crack at it, and the number of productions that you've been in, such high-level productions. Let me ask you a little bit about accents while we're just on about the Bradford thing.
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever had a challenge? I mean, accents, have you ever been challenged to one where you think, I just can't do this? I mean, is that a concern for actors? The American thing that you have to do? I mean,
God, listening back to it doesn't sound that great, but yeah, I was...
Do they come easy to you, I suppose, is the...
I think easier than some, judging by... Yeah, I think easier than some because of my background, and having Italian lineage, heritage, and kind of just having a bit of an ear for it. So a little easier maybe than most. There's definitely an advantage to that. Really, you've just got to be able to do... At drama school, they made us all do an RP accent, which is like posh. Basically, you speak posh. Yeah. Drop your accent and speak posh, which was a massive shock to me. It's like, why? What for? I mean, posh people play posh people on the whole, on telly and in films. And it's not because I'm against doing the work, because I find the process.
But there's loads of them, right? There's got to be loads of posh people, posh actors.
At this point, I did a much better Bradford accent than I did posh accent, and I couldn't get my head around that. And I don't know how much it's changed, to be honest. I mean, but my accent did change. I did try and did have to learn a posh accent.
And do your mates think you're posh when you come back to Bradford? That's the test, isn't it? When they come back and they all go, "What are you talking posh?"
They're all scuffers on my mates. No. I mean, it's part of it. You change, and it's part of being. I always think of myself as a really lazy person, but sometimes when you kind of go, no, actually, I was motivated to do that. As much as I like being the outsider at school and kind of, and also at drama school a little bit, I also wanted to do really well. Yeah. And if that meant doing an RP accent, then I would do it. And if it meant the other one that they asked us to focus on was an American accent, so I'll do that, and I'll be the best. I wanted to be the best. In my year at
and
doing
it's not easy, is it? I mean, I'm not an expert in accents, but I do pick up when someone's trying to do an American accent and they're from a certain part of America, and then it falls off into something else. It ruins it for me.
Well,
it really ruins
usually
it.
Supporting actors will do a really, really good accent because they've had to audition for it. Yeah. And so at that audition, your test will be an American accent or Greek. Yeah. One of the very many accents I can't do. I caught myself. I forgot that I auditioned for Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again a couple of years ago, and I was deleting some stuff off on my phone, and there was some voice memos that I recorded of me trying to do a Greek accent, and it was so bad. It was so bad. I really can't do that. But yeah, if you're a supporting role, you'll have to audition, so your accent's got to be up. Yeah. They'll know straight away. Yeah. If you're a lead role, like
they're going to tell you're great anyway.
Yeah, if it's Sir Anthony Hopkins, how's your Greek accent? It's like, no, they're not going to ask that. And if it's a bit shit, they'll just, who's going to mention it to him? On set, it kind of gets left alone. Yeah.
Tom Hardy just doesn't cut it with an American accent. I can't remember the name of the film now.
I think he's good.
Well, I can't remember the name, but it'll come back to me. But it kind of slips in and out, and anyway. But who's going to tell him? You know what I mean?
Tell him?
It's hard, isn't it? Coming on to some of the big stuff, yeah, they all are.
They all are. Me included.
Well, yeah.
From Legit Green, though.
Yeah. Well, we'll take the Legit Green bit.
Just let's focus on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So real, so Bradford.
But I'm going to take us right into non-Bradford now. Guardians at Galaxy.
Guardians at Galaxy.
Guardians at Galaxy.
Guardians of Great Orton. Doesn't have the same ring, does it?
Probably one of my favourite kind of contemporary films, mainly because it's soundtrack. You know, it just drives it so much. But how do you, that whole thing about modern movie making, that green screen environment, I mean, when did you first experience that? When you walk in and you think, what? You know, there's no set. It's all green.
Well, actually, that is one of the few occasions where it is real.
Right.
They built that.
Right.
That was it. That was the.
Did it hurt when they dragged you out like that?
Oh, that was a killer. That was a killer. I can't remember. They did so little.
Really?
Yeah, it's such a. I mean, I think against a green screen this big, gosh, just going ugh, like that.
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
it. The
yeah.
rest was all.
That's amazing,
Before we started filming, we spent about 45 minutes digitizing me, and then which is basically having you loads and loads and loads and loads of photographs taken of you, and then it's fed into a computer.
Right.
I don't understand it, but that was it. They actually built that entire set, which is what was incredible about that production. 'Cause it's way more expensive to build a practical set.
Yeah. Of
So
course, yeah.
the roof, the ceiling was obviously green screen because it's a sound stage, so it look a bit like this.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was real. It was like a massive aeroplane hangar. So that's what was exciting about that, as opposed to doing it all in green suits and against a green screen and not understanding what you're acting with and what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's a real sort of privilege in that sense. But most of the time it will be, it's like in Game of Thrones, the dragon is a tennis ball on the end of a stick.
yeah.
And,
Are we going to come on to Game of Thrones? Because obviously it is, you know, it's down on record as probably the most watched, if not the most downloaded, probably the most pirated television. Well, it is, you know, it's the, isn't it? It's like
it is.
Game of Thrones, and yet there are some people in here that haven't even seen it yet. So we have to be careful not to spoil it for them people. But what about when that came through? I mean, you must have been.
That was yeah. I mean, that was very exciting. Very. I mean, it's like getting a trial for Man City or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
And where were you? Where did you film?
We filmed it in Belfast, which is where all the studio stuff. A lot of the so they have two teams going at any point. The Northern Ireland team and the fun people.
Yeah, in the sun.
Yeah, the fun people in the sun. The fun yeah. If you so it's Belfast. The first series I did was Croatia in a split, and the second was Almeria in Spain. But I remember my wife and we lived in America for 6.5 years, and it was on the plane home that I was kind of going, right, because they only cast Game of Thrones pretty much from Europe, and certainly from the UK. It's Nina Gold, who is the casting director on it, and I think it was like season 3 at that point, you know, but it'd become the phenomenon that it was.
Yeah.
And I was determined that I would get a role in it. Absolutely determined that I would get a role in it. And it's funny how it works out.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, because it's the worst paid job I've ever
Is
done.
it really?
It is. It's such a
because it's Game of Thrones, they kind of expect you to.
It's really
you know.
bad, but you kind of triple your amount of Twitter followers straight away, and it means you have lots of people waiting for you at the stage door with Yazan Al Kugaz pictures that you've got to sign. But it's a tremendous thing to be involved in because of what they have, because of the facilities, because of the talent. The Man City, you know, insert your favourite, you know, brilliant football team as required. But it's a good metaphor. It is, you are working with incredible talent.
Yeah. World class. It's a world class TV
you really
series.
are.
Yeah.
You really are, and you feel that. And remember, there was we filmed one day and there was an electrical storm. It was in Croatia. We were in Split, and it was just, the heavens opened. It was properly biblical. And it was when we were shooting in that sand pit, that fighting scene. So you imagine obviously you got continuity. So you imagine what rain did, what that did to continuity. And it didn't stop till like 2 PM. Obviously we start filming about 8, 9, finish at 6.
Yeah.
So I had 4 hours. I just thought they're going to just write off the day, try and get an insurance job out of it. But they made the day.
Gosh.
Suddenly they just called for more people.
Yep.
Like 100 bods came out with rakes. Yep. Just did the whole thing and got another 2 cameras out and just, it was, you know, like when you see sort of things sped up, you know, and stop frame stuff,
Yep.
it was like that, watching it happen. It was incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
And still artfully done, and,
Yeah.
you know, it was, and done with such ease. It was great.
So you're learning the ropes all the time, being sort of the on-screen talent, but I know you've got a bit of a passion for producing and directing. You've done a little bit of that, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
Is that? I mean, what is next? Before we come on to questions from the floor, what is that an area you want to get into?
Yeah, I mean, we've brushed. You know, you and I. That's how you and I met. There's a story I have. You know, I mean, I've produced a micro-budget horror film in the US, which was nearly the death of me. I should have learnt, because before that I directed and produced a short film, which really, literally, nearly was the death of me. But there's just kind of, I don't know, just a passion for the thing as a whole, and that's what sustains me when. Because there are lean times, you know. It's all great when you get invited and to do lovely things like this and kind of celebrate Bradford and what
and
you've
your
done.
career.
Well, we're both passionate about the same thing, and that's. But it's very easy to forget how kind of miserable it can be. You know, those kind of like, you look back a year when you work like 5 days. Yeah. And
so there have been bleak times, not all.
Massively.
Despite that massive long list, which does look really impressive, there's a lot of auditions that you didn't get on the. You know.
Taste my salt tears of disappointment.
And
there are lots of them, and you know, I remember sort of seriously thinking in my 30s, like, what am I going to do? Got to do something else. I was going to retrain as a bike mechanic or something like that.
Or a barista. There's a lot of money in coffee.
Barista.
There's a lot of money in coffee, even up north.
There is. But the thing that sustains you is a passion, a passion for it, when, especially on great projects and being involved in great stories. I mean, my job's like anyone else's. There's a lot of the stuff you do to pay the rent, you know, and feed yourself, and some of them are actually really great, and it's worth being unemployed for so long. And I think the percentage of like good stuff that I do is probably slightly better than an accountant's day. I would say like 40% of my stuff is quite fun.
Have you had many days where you just think, I can't be bothered going in today? Or does that not happen at all? Even on the lesser glamorous gigs? Because it is long days, isn't it? It's really long days.
Yeah, but when you're in it, it's like, in the moment, when you get in the moment,
it's worth it.
It's always worth it. I mean, because I do love it, and answering that question properly is like, I love the whole thing so much. When it is at its best, it is just play. Yeah. So I think it's natural that I would want to be involved in particular stories. Yeah. No matter whether it's as an actor, as a director, or a producer. So we were doing a play. My mate had a stalker.
Well,
this is brilliant. This is absolutely.
It's not awesome. A fun thing, though, is it? For people.
This was funny. I thought. we got called by stage management. Everyone needs to come in early tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Like, oh God, why not come in? Why? All of us email. It turns out that my mate stalker, she'd been into the bar, and I'd not noticed her. She came into the bar that night dressed in full evening dress. She'd not even seen the play, and he saw it and he just went, "Let's get out of here," because it was his birthday. And she managed to evade security that night and spend the night in the theatre, in the gents' toilets, underneath the sinks, and then scribble loads of graffiti on the wall saying, our day will come, we will be together forever. I thought that was funny.
But you thought that was funny, and the part you played in Luther, there's a thin line between
no one would have been alive
between funny and serial killer.
One of the biggest moments for me was getting to work with Daniel Day-Lewis, and he was just the most unbelievable gent you could possibly imagine. It was such a great moment. So we filmed all his stuff on the first day, and he was sort of magnificent. And then the second day, the camera was turning around and filming everyone else, So we were all going, is he going to be in? He probably won't be in. And if he is in, he'll be giving it like 25%, saving himself for the scenes the following day or whatever. He's in every scene. Yeah. So we shot his stuff. It was amazing. We all come in the next day, and he's there, the exact same performance for every single person, of which there were about 7 or 8 of us who were speaking.
Brilliant.
And it was amazing.
Yeah, special. Yeah.
It was really special. He was so. I mean, that's the height of courtesy, and there are people a lot lower down the ladder than him,
Yeah.
who really don't give that courtesy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went to him afterwards and said, I've got to say thank you. So I just went, thanks so much, you're amazing. And he just went, you were wonderful. He's playing a Finnish person, he's playing Italian. And it was great. It was just absolute
nice.
Class, absolute class. So drama school was expensive. It was like really expensive back in the day, and that's when universities were free. So you got, wow, where do people find 10 grand for a year? But now that universities are not free anymore, it feels like that's leveled the playing field up. I don't know. I think there's a lot of. I think it feels anecdotal for where we are now. I think it's always. I don't think it's harder now, but I don't think it's any easier. That's for sure. And I think we're just riding the crest of a wave of a certain thing that's in fashion. We're seeing a lot of those kind of actors doing well. Cumberbatch, etc., Eddie Redmayne, all those like really incredible actors. But it's also a press issue. Cillian Murphy, tremendous actor.
Stays in character.
Stays in character. Love him for that. I always love him for that.
Very daunting. Very daunting.
Working class. You look at everyone's talking about Line of Duty, like this incredible piece of work, and look at all the leads in that.
Yeah.
None of them are posh. There are ways. So the answer is I don't know, but it can be done, definitely. But I felt I had to retrain. Fortunately, Toby, the director, and Kate Rhodes-James, the casting director, were the only 2 people I met on a very protracted audition process. So I didn't have to get it really, really spot on until we started filming. And I just did research, and I knew it couldn't be my specific Bradford accent because of what was happening in all the sort of great music that was happening in Manchester at the time when we was like sort of 15, 16, 17. I think there's a linguistic phenomenon that made people from Bradford try and sound a bit more from the west, from that side.
I think you're right.
It's absolutely it's what we did. So I had to go back, and that was. And it's sort of a similar answer to a question that I sometimes get asked, which is, what's the biggest risk you've ever taken in your career? And that voice was the biggest risk in my career.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't speak like that.
No,
and
but you're from Yorkshire. They
well,
kind of expect
he's
you to.
He's proper like that.
Yeah.
And going into an audition room and sort of like, okay, you have a chat. So what have you been up to? Oh, kids, and shall we read? And you go, yeah, sure, great. Great. Can you do it in your normal accent?
Being cut out.
And it worked, and that was a big job for me. I mean, to me, he was the lead in that show. At the time, it was the biggest BBC drama in terms of budget they'd ever done.
Brilliant.
I just didn't expect to get it, and it was so getting it was a real watershed moment, and the fact that it was an adaptation of a book that celebrates Yorkshire. Yeah. And it changed. It's the direct, opposite of north and south.
And they did film 2 days in Bradford. Can't remember where, Alice. Can you tongue? But to see York Minster and York being used, because it's not actually York. Incredibly enough, hasn't been used that much to filming because it's so small.
Two stand out. There's one I did a play called Anna in the Tropics quite a while ago now, and it was it was a European premiere of a Pulitzer Prize winning play. So it was sort of it felt like a big deal at the time. I mean, they never are. They're all a big deal, but they never are ultimately. And I had to play the love interest, this character who all the women and to an extent the men were in love with. I couldn't do it. I was just trying to act it. And it was, I was getting like, not panic attacks, but it's like, there's something inside me that was just like, I can't do this, I don't know what to do, I don't know how you do this. And it was really tough. And then, I mean, I can't say that I got it, but I sort of remember a feeling of just like a dress rehearsal and just going, I think I understand what I have to do now, which is just do nothing. Just do nothing, which is a lot, which is really, really, really hard to do. There's nothing to hide behind. It's just like, just be you, and trust that everyone thinks you're amazing, which is, it's.
I've tried it never works for me.
No, you can't. I mean, you can never do it in real life. So
No.
so that was that. And the other one was playing Jeremy in Luther, and being someone that awful for 3.5 months. I mean, that evil, that awful was actually really unpleasant. It got really unpleasant. It got really, really upsetting and quite depressing. When you're kind of saying those, when you spend basically a whole day saying those kind of things to an extremely talented and convincing actress, you're telling her exactly what you're going to do to her, for how long, and seeing what it does to that person. And obviously there's part of you that has got to enjoy the effect that you're having on that person.
For it to be genuine, yeah.
And it does, you want to get to that point where it's kind of, it's easy, it's easy to say because you want to do that to them. That was horrible. That was really horrible.
So you have sleepless nights when you get home and stuff like that?
Just quite depressed.
Yeah.
Just quite depressed. I mean, you get over it, it's fine. The upside to that, the happy side of that story is I saw our lead clinician was our health, the medical advisor rather on that show was the lead clinician at St Bart's. He was a lovely Indian fella, and he invited me to go and see a triple heart bypass op at the hospital the day before I had to pretend to do that scene in front of a camera. And I had a patient, British Nigerian patient, happened like that. His head was here, watched his heart stop, and watched his life be saved by an Indian, an African, Filipino, Italian, and a Scouser. It's like, this is the NHS. And it was just watching life and death there. Nearly as profound as watching your kids being born. Yeah. And the way it's done and what, kind of was amazing. It was an amazing experience. So it wasn't all horrible.
So, ladies and gentlemen, would you join me in giving Enzo such a big hand and a thanks for coming to Bradford?
Thank you. I always come to Bradford. I love it.
Now, before we let him go, the bar is open downstairs if you do want to have a little bit of a drink. I've just got a little, because we don't give these to everyone, but when people are as generous with their time as what Enzo is, it's a little certificate.
Oh, what? Are you kidding me?
No, more than that.
Oh, David.
This is something that, no, it's not a mug. This is the BAFTA. So when you came to my office,
God!
You had your hands on it. And he said to me, how do I get one of them? And I didn't know him very well at the time. And we have got to know each other better from an event that the university organised in London and from talking about this. So this is City Hall Clock Tower, of course, and this is our BAFTA, and we only really give it to really, really special people.
Wow. Wow, that is something. Look at that.
There you go.
Wow.
Make an acceptance speech.
I know. Wow.
There's even a little bag to take it home.
Oh my God, that's I can't tell you, that's just amazing. Wow, that's, can't tell you what it feels like to hold a BAFTA. It's just, so what a thing. God,
Well, you're very
it's
welcome.
heavier than,
It's
than
heavy.
you think,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. It's a proper award.
Yeah.
It's a proper award. So
Mum,
watch
that's the
this
closest
space
you're going to
and
get.
yeah.
This year.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's brilliant. Oh, thanks, man. That's so good.